Hello, my name is Allison Carmen, and welcome to my podcast, 10 Minutes to Less Suffering. Today I want to talk to you about our need to control the things around us. Intellectually, most of us know that we can't possibly control everything, but because we don't always grasp it emotionally, we end up stressed, we end up worrying, we end up suffering, and we end up spending a lot of our mental energy trying to change or fix things that we really have no control over. And it's really understandable because there are things in our lives that we care about so much, our children, our jobs, our health, and we want to know that everything is going to be okay. And sometimes when I have this conversation with people, they'll say, well, what do you mean? I control what I do every day. I control what I say, and that has impact. And that's true. I'm not telling people that when they get in their cars, they have no control over the wheel. Of course you do. When you get into the car, you're in charge of how you drive. But there's no way you can control the weather. There's no way you can control what other people do, how other people drive. Yes, your actions matter, but there are things that are outside of your control. And then people might say to me, well, that's really scary that I don't control my life. And while it might be scary, when we accept this peace, when we realize that we can only control our peace, it actually alleviates so much of the stress and worry. Because part of the stress and worry comes from the belief that we can control everything. And once we recognize that we can't, and we could just focus on our role, it alleviates so much of our daily burdens. Most people come into my office know this, and yet there are pieces of their lives that they're stressed and worried about that they really have no control over. And I find when you find that peace and you let that peace go, it actually makes you feel like you're more in control. That's what's so ironic about it. Because you could focus on your peace. And when you just focus on your peace, you have more clarity, you have more energy, you have more presence. You end up making the best decisions for yourself. It's almost like you empower yourself as much as possible to get to the place that you want to go. And it also makes you more aware and more alert when things happen that are out of your control, because you're very present, you're not in fear, and in that moment you're going to make the right decision for whatever happens. But when we start to get stressed and we start to get worried and things get too intense, we have to step away from our emotions a little bit, and we need to ask ourselves, what is my peace? What peace can I control? And when we figure that out, we could pull back a little bit and harness our power and be so good at our part. At least if you're in the car and you're driving and you know that that's the only thing you can control, you will be the best at it at that moment. And the same thing when you're at an office meeting, if you feel that people are making the wrong decisions and it's out of your control. If you lose control because you can't stand what's going on around you, people are less likely to hear you. But the minute you witness that I can't control what these people think, I can only give my opinion, you're going to settle down, you're going to be centered, and when you speak, you'll be more powerful and more likely to influence the situation. And in a personal relationship, when we don't want someone to act a certain way, we don't want someone to do something, if we don't respect their boundaries and what they want, then we end up creating mistrust and making the relationship very difficult. In a way, we have to let people be who they are. We can give them advice, but it's only through the freedom between us and the person we're in a relationship with that it's going to be able to blossom. So in the end, we think we want to control everything, and if we did, life would be better. But because the reality is that we can't, the minute we recognize that, And we ask ourselves, what parts can I control and what parts I can't? The minute we see that peace, no matter how uncertain the situation is, no matter how much you don't want it to be happening, when you own your peace, you will have more peace. You will have less worry, you will have less stress, and you will have the most energy possible to do your part. And whether that part is preparing for something that might happen, whether that part is doing your best to advocate for things that you really believe in, whether doing your part is working in a group and realizing that it's collaborative and you could only perform your role the best that you can and let the rest go. And whether you're in a relationship where you're unhappy how someone's acting, but pull back and realize you could only give advice and put yourself in the best possible emotional state to deal with whatever comes your way. So part of our fear and part of our worry is about things that are really beyond us. And there's something so freeing to let go of the burden of the things that we can't control. So whatever you're afraid of today, whatever you're worried about, look at your peace. Our fears about tomorrow will not save us, but our ability to look into the unknown and realize that if we don't know what's going to happen next, life has maybe, life has hope, life has possibility. And the best way we can prepare is ask ourselves, what piece is in my control? What can I do to put myself in the best position possible in this moment? How will I best deal with an unexpected event? How will I best deal with this relationship in front of me? How will I best deal with my job? How will I best deal with the things that could possibly happen in the world? And that's how you prepare yourself, by staying in your lane and doing the best you can for yourself every day. Again, intellectually it makes perfect sense. Why would we ever try to control something that's out of our control? But emotionally we do it all the time. And we do it because we want our lives to be good. We want our children to be well. We want to be abundant. We want everything in the world to be okay. Most of the time, we try to control these things from a really good place within our heart. But it doesn't serve us, and it doesn't serve those around us. So if we want to be our most powerful selves, we must stick to the things that we can control and let the rest go. And when we let go what we can't control, we create this huge space within us. And in that space, our wisdom blossoms. And in that space, we see possibilities when they come our way. And in that space, we create our own opportunities. And in that space, we become wiser and smarter and more resilient. Because we are so present in the moment, doing our best, doing our part. And that will always lead us to our best lives. Thank you for listening to this podcast today. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you can email me at allison@allisoncarmen.com. If you'd like to buy my book, The Gift of Maybe, it's available at all major bookstores and online retailers. And if you like this podcast, you could subscribe and leave a comment.